this is Mackenzie Conway, and you're listening to Tank Talk presented by KGTropicals.
Thank you, Kenzie. Welcome, folks, to another episode of Tank Talk. I am your host, John Hudson. This is a show all about the aquarium hobby. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you've listened to every single episode, thank you too. Okay, so every single week when I produce a show, I do it the same way. I produce an outline. I put together an outline of what it is that I want to talk about. I even have my little intro at the top of that, so I remember to tell you about tanktalkfeedback@gmail.com. I remember what's going on, but today is different. Today, I'm talking completely off the top of my head. You know where I am. I'm in my basement. I'm sitting here. All of my tanks are dark right now. I have the lights off. I'm just sitting here at my desk. I don't even have my laptop in front of me, which is something that I usually do. No outline today whatsoever. I'm going to talk about this topic straight from the heart and right off the top of my head, because I think it's important to do it that way. Any other way would, well, seem scripted. So, and it's not that my other episodes that I put together are fake. It's just that I usually have an outline so that I know exactly all the points that I want to hit on. Today is different. You're getting it straight off the top of my head. And the topic is, are we doing the right thing by keeping fish in glass boxes? Now, this is something, like I said earlier, I have never really come face to face with this argument. I've never really had anybody confront me about this. I was running a tropical fish store for 2 years. People come in. It was never really brought up, but it's always been something that is in my head. It's always in the back of my head, one of those things. And sometimes I begin to doubt whether I am doing the right thing. And if you remember recent events that happened in my studio with thousands of dollars worth of fish all going belly up at one time, that's usually the time where I start to think, man, what have I done here? I mean, am I doing the right thing? Now, I know this is crazy for somebody in my line of work to start having these thoughts, but when I go through my little list that I'm going to put together of kind of arguments for and arguments against, I think you'll understand that in the end, I do think we're doing a good thing here. I don't think we're necessarily rescuing these fish, but I think that we're doing okay. I don't think it's an immoral thing to keep these fish in glass boxes, but are we doing the right thing? There's a lot of things that we can hit on that are arguments for and arguments against. And they're all valid points in my opinion. I'm going to go through some of the arguments against first. And again, nobody has ever come to me and said these things. These are things that I wrestle with in my own head, not from other people that come to me and want to wave a sign and pick it outside of my store, which I don't have anymore. I've never really had those things. I've heard of that happening before at other establishments, but it never happened to me, and it's very rare. I haven't heard of anything happening like that in a long time. But okay, the first thing to think about when it comes to the arguments against keeping fish, the first thing is keeping fish. We're keeping them in small glass boxes, unless you're somebody that keeps ponds. And when I say ponds, I'm talking about like in your house, you know, like Jenny, for example, keeps all kinds of goldfish, and she has some ponds that are in her basement. I guess you could call them vats. You could call them whatever you want. And when I refer to pond, I'm talking about your viewing angle of the fish is from the top. That's what I call a pond. It's sitting down on the ground and you're looking at the fish from the top. And when I say this, we're going to talk about ponds, outdoor ponds, koi ponds and things like that. We're going to bring that up or talk about that in this whole debate. But when I talk about ponds, I'm really talking about, you know, a water vessel in your home that you're looking at your fish from the top. Is it fair to keep these animals in these small confined spaces? If you think about it, you think about the Sarah McLachlan commercials that you see for the SPCA on TV. They always make me cry. I turn the channel. I can't watch those where they're showing these dogs and cats and they're in small crates and they're in these puppy mills and things like that. If you really think about it, that's kind of what we're doing. When we keep fish in a glass box, that's what we're doing. But because it's fish, it's okay. If you take a Pomeranian, let's say, and you put them in a small crate that was made for an animal the size of a Pomeranian, and you keep that animal in that crate its entire life, how are you doing anything different than keeping a fish in a glass box? There's only so far the fish can go. They can only go 4 feet to the left or 4 feet to the right, 12 inches front and back. They can't go anywhere else. So really, if you think about it, that's what we're doing. It's like keeping a dog in a crate. And there's no one out there, anyone out there that would argue that keeping a dog in a crate its entire life, that person needs to be put in some type of an asylum, because no one out there could ever argue that that is acceptable. If you do, then you're crazy. But we do. We do it with these fish. So is it right? Are we right by doing that? I don't know. Especially when you think about the fact that many of us, and I've been guilty of this in the past, put our fish into boxes. Yes, I'm calling them boxes that are much too small for that particular fish. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made in fish keeping was my very first tank was a 29-gallon tank that I put a silver arowana in. That you heard me correctly. Maybe you haven't heard the story. I put a silver arowana. This is a fish that can get massive. We put it into a 29-gallon tank. That was because I was young and dumb and I didn't know what I was doing. I learned very quickly that was a mistake, and I corrected the problem. I moved the fish up to a 55 and then to a 125, and to be honest, that still wasn't big enough, but it was much bigger than what I started with, and I felt like I was doing the right thing. So one of the biggest mistakes that's made in fish keeping, as far as I'm concerned, of course, you have overfeeding. Yes, that's true. But I believe that the second biggest mistake made by fish keepers is putting them in tanks that are far too small. Think about what happens with your average fish keeper. I'm not talking about you, because if you are into it enough to where you're riding to work and you got your Bluetooth hooked up to your car and you're listening to me through your car speakers, you are a fishaholic. You are an aquarist. You are to that level of nuts like I am. But think about your average fish keeper. They're not somebody like you. They're somebody who on impulse made a decision. I want to keep fish. I think that would be cool. They're really pretty. People would come to my house and go, ooh, ah, or maybe little Jimmy got straight A's on his report card. I want to reward him by getting him a fish tank. Let's go to PetSmart and buy up everything they've got, bring it home, set it up, and put fish in there. These are people that don't put very much time into thinking about or researching what the needs of that fish are. They just put them in there and, get the filter running and they walk away. And if the fish die, they just blame it on Jimmy because he didn't take care of the tank. And they don't think anything of it. They don't think about the fact that they literally killed these fish. That would be your average fish keeper. Now, I think most people, even when they're doing it on impulse, I think they go into it and they want to take care of the fish. They don't want to send the fish to their death. But let's face it, most people are desensitized to fish dying. We go out there and we put fake worms on a pole or on a hook and we throw it out into the water to lure the fish up to that, and we reel them up and we celebrate. We take a picture with it and then throw it into a cooler full of ice so that we can take it home and eat it that night. I don't eat fish, but that's what we do. That's how desensitized we have become to fish dying. Now, I'm not sitting here criticizing people that go out and enjoy fishing and they enjoy eating it that night and catching or eating what they catch and all of that. I'm not criticizing you. I'm not saying that you're a bad person. I mentioned this a while back. I'm going off on a little side note, but that's what happens when you're not reading off of a script or an outline. I got an email one time of somebody kind of scolding me because I said that I enjoy fishing but I am a catch and release guy. And this email was, I don't remember who it was from. They said, John, you're somebody who loves fish so much. It surprises me that you're willing to put them through that you're willing to put them through the whole act of being caught on a hook and then brought up into the net and thrown back in. And I don't really have an explanation for that. I haven't gone fishing in a very long time. And it's not because I think it's wrong or anything like that. I just haven't done it. I mean, I run a fish business. I haven't gone out and gone fishing, but that email did make me think a little bit. It was kind of hypocritical for me, the person that I am, to go and do that. I have a hard time killing anything unless it's spiders. I'll step on a spider and I won't even blink. It's no problem. I can't stand a spider, but you know, we see a garter snake or something like that in our yard, and Lisa's like, "Oh my God, let's grab the shovel and we're going to go." And I'm like, no, leave it alone. They like to kill spiders, so that helps me in my whole argument against spiders, but I can't do it. I just have a real hard time doing that. I will catch a big moth or mosquito in my house in my hand, and I'll take it and throw it out the door and let it fly away. I don't do it. And that's just weird, I guess. But so it never really occurred to me that maybe I am being hypocritical by putting the fish through what I'm putting them through and then just throwing them back and saying, "Hope you heal up nicely." You know, I do have to go ahead and pull the hypocrisy card there. I don't know. Maybe I should have thought of that a little better before I talked about it in that past episode. But kudos to you, whoever it was that sent me that email. I have not gone fishing in a very long time, and now, thanks to you, I probably never will again. But anyway, like I said, I'm not criticizing anyone who does enjoy fishing, not at all. What I'm saying is we have become desensitized to fish dying. It's just like, the fish is dead, no big deal. They don't feel pain. They're, blah, blah, blah. We're not taking them away from their family, and you just throw them in a cooler and you're done with it. Most of us feel that way. And so if you buy a bunch of fish and you throw them in little Jimmy's tank because he got A's on his report card and they die, it's like, no big deal. It only cost me $5. You don't think about the life that you, the person who paid for the fish, killed. It doesn't come to that level with the average fish keeper. For you listening to this, it would be different. But like I said, the average fish keeper is not like you. There's somebody that look at it as a decoration in the corner, not something where they are actually facilitating life. So most of these people do no research whatsoever, and they will go and they'll see, I always bring up this fish, it's coming. They'll see Oscars, and the Oscars are adorable when they're small. They're just cute. Their eyeballs are huge and they're just gorgeous and they're cute little things, and they only cost like $5. And people will be like, "Yay, let's get those for Jimmy." And we'll put them in the 10-gallon tank and they'll be fine. And everybody will live happily ever after. And when Jimmy loses interest in 2 weeks, that's okay. The fish will probably be dead by then anyway, so no big deal. We only spent $10. That is the mistake that is made by more people than you could ever imagine. And so buying the fish that are way too big for your little Jimmy's tank is one of the biggest mistakes that's made. And I think that some even advanced fish keepers make this mistake. And if you think about it, my favorite thing in the world in freshwater fish keeping is the silver arowana. I would love to have Asian arowanas, but we won't talk about that. My dream one day is to set up a studio where I've got 2 8-foot tanks. I'm not going to tell you what the second tank would be for, but one of them would be for a arowana and stingrays. It's what I had my 240 for before, was arowanas and stingrays. This is an 8-foot tank, 8 by 2 by 2. And even that's not big enough. So I am guilty of the same thing that I'm saying we all do. I mean, I'm willing to admit that I too make this mistake. I have an Oscar in a 65-gallon tank right now. Okay? Say no more. We all make this mistake. We've all done it. Everyone that's in this hobby has done it. And the average fish keeper, who isn't even really a fish keeper, the average aquarium owner makes this mistake all the time. So that is a great argument against fish keeping, is the fact that we're desensitized to them dying, and most average fish keepers just don't care. And they'll throw them in the tank. It doesn't matter to them. They only spent $10. So the other thing that happens that is a great argument against fish keeping is the poor water conditions. Because again, let's face it, most people are not like you. You're listening to this, and hopefully this is getting you motivated for when you get home today, you're going to do a nice big water change on your tank, or you're going to go through and you're going to clean out your filter. You're going to do something to improve the conditions in your aquarium for your fish. Hopefully, I provide that motivation for you. I just did a huge water change in my tank up in my living room today. It took me the whole morning to do it because I don't have a hose that can get there, and I got to do it with buckets, and it's a huge pain in the butt. But I feel so good after doing it because I feel like I've given my fish a good environment to live in by cleaning their water for them and providing them with fresh water. But so many people don't. I can't tell you how many people there are that all they do is fill up the tank when it evaporates. There is a YouTuber. I'm not going to name this person. It is a man. There is a YouTuber out there who is a huge YouTuber. This guy makes his living from the content that he creates online. And occasionally you will see a fish tank in the background on his videos, and the water's about 6 inches lower than the top of the tank. It's embarrassing. And it's right there. Hundreds of thousands of people watch his videos, and it's a very controversial guy, so I'm not going to say who it was. But this guy, and every single time I've ever seen his aquarium, it looks that way. There's no way he's listening to this, but if you are, shame on you. Because if you're going to do a piss poor job taking care of your tank, at least don't let it be seen on a YouTube video. My God, turn the camera a little bit. Good Lord, you make yourself look like a lazy bum. There are so many people that do that. They don't take care of their tanks. They don't care about the conditions of their tanks because, again, they only paid $10 for the fish, so they don't care. It doesn't matter to them. And so that's a great argument against fish keeping because most people just don't care, or they're too lazy, or they make the "I'm too busy" excuse, which is a crock as far as I'm concerned. We all have 15 minutes to maintain a 10-gallon tank. Come on, don't give me any of that. So it's a huge, huge problem, and it's never going to stop because there's always going to be huge retailers out there that are pushing this kind of thing out there for little Jimmy to get his tank because he got a goal in the soccer game today or whatever it is, and that's how they make the bulk of their income. So poor water conditions, what else did I say? Confining them into small space and not giving them enough room, putting fish in a tank that is way too small for the fish's growth. Their growth gets stunted. They end up dying because they don't have enough room to grow, and it's a huge problem. Those are probably the best arguments against. And I think the number one argument against fish keeping is that the bulk, and you'd be shocked. I'm in this industry, folks, so I know. You'd be shocked how many people are just casual fish keepers. People that just have the tank. It's part of their decor. They don't really care about the lives that are inside there. There are more people out there like that than there are like you. Believe me when I tell you this. It's kind of like me. I love golf. I haven't played golf. Oh man, it's been like 4 years ever since I hurt my back. I used to play golf when I had money and I was in shape. I played golf literally like 2 or 3 times a week. I was a golfer, but most golfers play twice a year. And it's that level of fish keeper that I'm talking about. The person that just has one sitting in the corner and it's just there and they turn the lights on when guests come over. The numbers would shock you if I don't even know that there's a study out there that has documented how many of those people there are out there, but there's far more of them than you think. So not caring is probably the number one argument against fish keeping. All right. So, okay. Let's move on because now we've gotten all mad. We're all upset now. John said some horrible things. Let's move into the arguments for. Now, I'm going to say it again. I believe that we are all guilty of keeping these animals in spaces that are too small. Even if you're somebody that has a 5,000 gallon aquarium, it's too small. When you consider nature, when you consider that these animals probably came from lakes that are 100,000 square miles, or they came from rivers or oceans, we can't compare to that with our little glass boxes. So in the grand scheme of things, we're all guilty of that. But there's a big but. The same argument that I'm going to make can be made for dogs and cats and things like that. If you think about any animal that we keep in captivity is we can put them all in this category. I have a golden retriever and I also have a beagle. Now these are both hunter dogs. Retriever is in the name. We all know what beagles do. So these are both dogs that really should have an unlimited amount of space to go and run and do what they want to do. I live on a 1 acre lot. This is a temporary house. Yes, that's true. But I live on a 1 acre lot. So really, I'm even doing the same thing that I talked about with my dogs. Not many of us that keep dogs have the adequate space that we really should have to allow our dogs to run. So when I say we're all guilty of this, what I mean is we're guilty of it if we're comparing it to nature. Now, the obvious thing here is that most of us have fish that were bred in captivity. They were bred in farms. And so they were never pulled from the ocean or unless you're a saltwater keeper, but they were never pulled from the rivers or anything like that. So I do think that red flag here, folks. Get ready, sit up, buckle your seatbelt. I do think that that's wrong, in my opinion, as far as fish keeping goes. My personal preference when it comes to fish that are kept in glass boxes in our homes for our hobby, my personal preference is to have fish that were bred in captivity, because these are fish that never saw what it was like to be in Lake Malawi or Lake Tanganyika, and they weren't pulled from that and put into these little glass boxes. Now, I'm not telling you that you're a bad person if you keep wild caught fish. No, I'm not. See, that's what's really weird about me. You can have a completely different philosophy than me, and we can still be friends, because I have my beliefs, you have yours. It's not going to change the way I feel about you. So if you're someone who, maybe you're one of these people that you deal exclusively in wild caught fish, good for you. That's fine. Most people that are in the saltwater world are those people, because most of the fish that are in the saltwater industry are wild caught fish. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm just saying, me personally, I can't go do that. It's just like I live in King George, Virginia. We live in the country. I got tons of friends and relatives that can't wait to go hunting Saturday morning, and they get up at 4:00 in the morning and they go hunting, and they can't wait to get that trophy deer. I'll never do that. Maybe if there's a zombie apocalypse and I have to go out there and kill food for my family to eat, I could do it, but I can't go out there and do that. I don't get anything from it. I can't kill animals like that. I'm a softie, but I don't look at people who do go hunting and look at them as bad people. Okay. So, I'm from Virginia. I'm kind of conservative, but at the same time, I have a lot of liberal views when it comes to other people. I'm very firm on my views, my personal views. If yours are different, that's fine. We can still be friends. We can still watch a ball game together or hang out or whatever. We can talk about the Flash. We can still be friends. I'm not going to change the way I feel about you because of your beliefs. So if you are a person who keeps wild caught fish, then you're still okay as far as I'm concerned. So we are all guilty of keeping them in environments that are too small for what they would have if they were in nature. All right. So arguments for. Probably one of the biggest arguments for keeping fish that makes it okay, that makes we're actually doing a good thing, is the fact that a lot of these fish would be constantly under the threat of predators if they were in nature. It's true. It doesn't matter if they're African cichlids or if they're South American cichlids, or even if you keep catfish, it doesn't matter. There are predators that are out there looking for that particular fish. And we, as responsible fish keepers, we keep them away from that. And so that is definitely a pro when it comes to the list of pros and cons. Even big, huge catfish and arowanas and things like that in the Amazon, there are birds, there are bears, there are all kinds of predators that from the top can come down and take those fish out. And it happens. It happens all the time, and we chalk it up to nature. Well, our fish that are in our glass boxes at home, they don't have to worry about that. There is also the fact that if there's a fish in the wild that gets sick for whatever it is, some type of parasite or whatever, they get sick, there's nothing anybody's going to do for them. We, as fish keepers, we have this unbelievable pharmaceutical industry of different medications that we can put into our aquariums to help fix that fish, whatever it is. A fin got chewed up, or an eyeball is all glazed over, or they have some type of internal parasite. Whatever it is, we have medications that we can put in there to resolve that. If that fish was in the wild, most likely that fish would die. It would either die of that ailment, or it would succumb to a predator because they no longer have the strength to retreat from that predator, and so they are a goner. So that is definitely a pro. If there is something wrong with the fish, we can take care of them. And now there are the people out there that make the argument against medicating fish and all that. That's fine, but I'm saying there isn't even an opportunity for that if they're in the wild. You don't see anyone out there dumping pouches of erythromycin into the Amazon River, okay? You don't see that, and you never will. So the fact that we can help our fish through sicknesses and stuff like that is definitely a pro. And it leads into the next thing, and that is just the care, the way we care for them. Now, again, not all of us are this way. It is just the ones that are crazy enough to be sitting down listening to a podcast about fish keeping, or watching videos, or sitting behind a microphone recording a podcast. We are the people that provide that great care for our fish, where the majority of people don't. So not all of us do the right thing, but there is opportunity to keep our fish in an environment that is free of predators, unless you put guppies in with Oscars. But anyway, that's another topic. There's Oscars again. Free from predators, free from disease. The water is pristine. The water is better than they would ever see in the wild. That's a pretty good argument for. And again, it's just like the argument with keeping dogs and cats and stuff like that. If the dogs were in the wild, they'd be out there killing other animals to get food. And then you never know what you're going to get as far as bacteria and parasites and all this kind of stuff. This is why wild dogs look so nasty. We, as keepers of dogs and as fish keepers, we provide them with health care. We provide them within a healthy environment to grow in. We give them really good food that we pay crazy amounts of money for, to make sure that they have everything that they need to live a happy and healthy and long life. And it is true, especially with dogs and cats and other captive animals, they live a lot longer in captivity than they would in the wild. So that is probably the biggest pro for keeping fish, is the fact that we can give them a better life. Even if we are confining them to a smaller space, doesn't matter if you keep dogs, cats, fish, reptiles, birds, we're confining them to a smaller space than they would have if they were in the wild. But that environment is healthier. It is free from predators. They don't have to worry. Their whole life is constantly under the threat that a heron is going to stick its beak in the water and scoop them up one day. We don't ever have to worry about that. And so I think that is probably the biggest pro for keeping fish. So I don't know. I mean, maybe you're going to turn this off at the end of the episode and you're going to go, wow, that was literally 45 minutes or whatever it is of just straight rambling. What is John's problem? I hope you don't think of it that way, but that's the way I look at this. That's the way I realize when I do have this debate in myself, when I have this internal struggle, are we doing the right thing? I just had 40 fish die in a tank all at one time. Should I have even had them in there to begin with? Whenever that happens to me, whenever anything like that happens to me, I get this little internal struggle and I start thinking, are we doing the right thing? And when I think about the fact that we are providing them with a better lifestyle than they would have in the wild, they're probably under much less stress. They're getting premier food that has everything in it to keep them healthy. I think we're doing the right thing. I think we're doing a good thing. And we're not rescuing these fish unless you are someone who has some type of a fish rescue or whatever. You go to the store and buy a fish, bring it home, put it in your aquarium. You're not rescuing them from anything. I got a lot of respect for anybody that runs these dog rescues and stuff like that. It's actually something I've thought about doing. And if I had the space and the money, I would do it. I would love to have a dog rescue. We're not really doing that with fish, though. I mean, we're keeping fish because we enjoy them. They help us to relax. They provide us with something to take our minds off of the fact that life sucks. And so they do help us just as much as we help them. And so for that, I do believe that we're doing the right thing as fish keepers. And I hope I haven't just completely frustrated you with all of my rambling. I hope that you've enjoyed this. So thank you all so much. I hope you stick around for John's World. I've had a good time with this episode. I hope you have too. But now let's move into John's World. It's time to talk about Oliver Queen and Barry Allen and talk about all this stuff going on the CW.
John's World!
So if you are a fan of Tank Talk and you've been with us since the beginning, you have heard me more than once talk about my love of any and all superhero shows, comics, movies, video games. It doesn't matter. I'm sitting here. I have my cell phone in front of me and my home screen is the Reverse Flash. Yes, I am that much of a nerd. If you know anything about me, you know how much I love these things. And we had a major event happen over the last 2 weeks, and that was, or actually 3 weeks now, the finales of season 1 of The Flash and season 4, I think, of Arrow. I lose track. It's been on for a long time, and since they take breaks in the winter, they come out and they're on for 10 weeks, and then they take a month off. It makes it very confusing. But I think it was season 4 of Arrow. They just ended their seasons. And let me just say that as far as superhero shows go, Arrow, Smallville, what other shows have they been? I mean, even if you want to go back to the old Incredible Hulk series, which I grew up watching with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. Lou Ferrigno is a god to me. Okay. I used to want to be a bodybuilder. That was a very long time ago. I think we've all been through that phase. Lou Ferrigno is a god. And if you look at that guy even today, it is shocking that he's over 60 and the shape that he's in is absolutely ridiculous. I grew up watching this guy covered in green paint and seeing You Don't Want to Make Me Angry. You Won't Like Me When I'm Angry. I grew up watching that show. It's something that I did with my dad that I love to do. I've been involved in this my whole life, and I've never had a show excite me as much as The Flash did. Now, I've been a Flash fan my whole life. As far as my favorites go, that was taken over a good long while ago by Deadpool. I'm not going to talk about Deadpool right now, but Deadpool is like a superhero made for me. But The Punisher is another one that it's like, what does John Hudson want to see in a superhero? We're going to make The Punisher. We're going to make Deathstroke. We're going to make Deadpool. But anyway, The Flash has been something that I've loved forever. And when I heard that they were making a show all about The Flash, I was so excited. And then I heard it was on the CW and I was like, oh man, I don't know how that's going to be, because pretty much they just make like teeny bopper, like love story type shows. And I know Vampire Diaries and all. I don't watch all that Twilight stuff. Lisa does, but I was a little worried when I saw that it was going to be on the CW. But let me just say, season 1 of The Flash was spectacular. I mean, there was not an episode that I saw where I was like, meh, kind of like I was for the finale of Arrow. I was like, meh, okay, that's fine. They made a lot of references to Green Lantern, and Diggle's going to get a costume, and I guess Thea's Speedy now, and Oliver and Felicity are finally together, and that makes all the women happy, and okay, they're driving off in a Porsche into the sunset going to see Hal Jordan. I know they're not going to see Hal Jordan, but you know what I'm saying. They're going to his city. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was just kind of like, it was a 23 episode season that was built up and built up and built up, and then it was just over. I don't know. I was a little disappointed in the end of Arrow. I'm kind of sick of seeing Oliver quit and then come back. I mean, it gets a little bit old, but I love that show. I absolutely love it. And the only bad thing that I would ever say about Arrow is, for one, Slade Wilson's locked up in a dungeon somewhere. That's a bad thing. And 2, I didn't like the finale of season 4. But other than that, I love Arrow. I can't wait for Wednesdays when it comes on. It's a great show. Just wasn't all that thrilled with the finale. The finale of The Flash, though, was unbelievable. And I hate it. I hate it when a season ends and you're on the edge of your seat. It's like, come on. If it's a weekly episode and it ends and you're like, oh man, I can't wait for next week. But we got to wait till October to find out what happens to Barry up in that cloud. I mean, that was nuts. It was crazy, but I absolutely loved it. I loved the way they ended it. I was so worried. I was like, I don't know how they can get through this. Barry's going to go back and he's going to save his mom. How is that not going to screw everything up? I thought one of the coolest things, I know you all saw this if you watched the show, was when he went back in time and he was coming out of his bedroom and the future Flash, the future Barry, the one from way ahead of time that was actually wearing the red suit with the white emblem, puts his hand up and says, no, don't do it. I thought that was cool. And basically that Flash knew that by stopping the past Barry or the middle Barry from killing or from saving the past Barry's mom, it gets confusing. He knew that he was going to end up vanishing to nowhere by doing that, but he still did it. He stopped himself from the past from saving his mother. I thought that was really cool the way they did it. I was worried, but I don't think they could have ended it better. I don't like that they ended it with a cliffhanger because now I need to know what happens. Where's Grodd? Who are all these new characters that are going to be coming? It's nuts. But that show it's really making a case for taking over the number 1 slot for me, which is currently being held by The Walking Dead. But you know what? The Flash, I cannot say enough good things about it. I'd like to know what you think about it if you were as impressed with the season as I was. And I think about this too. The CW, they deal with amounts of money that you and I could probably never fathom. I mean, okay, but in the grand scheme of things, their budget for that show was very small. And the things that they were able to do with the special effects, not only just the Flash's movements and the Reverse Flash, and the way they were able to do that with the Weather Wizard making the clouds and all these things, but even like Grodd. I mean, I was so impressed with how good Grodd looked. I mean, I thought low budget show, they were going to botch that for sure, but they did a great job with that. And you know what? What we Flash fans have to look forward to is the fact that this budget for this show is only going to get bigger because it's one of the most popular shows on TV. So season 2, I think, is going to be mind-blowing, and I can't wait to see it. I think it's cool the way they took out the Reverse Flash. I liked that. He's gone, but is he really gone? Who knows? You never really know when you have time travel involved. And how many other people saw the Jay Garrick helmet fly out from that wormhole? How cool was that? I didn't know what to think about that. Are we going to get Jay Garrick? Is he going to come along? Are we going to see him? How cool would that be? I think that would be awesome. I love the old stuff. I love the old history stuff and all of that. I think that would be awesome. Even if it's just for an episode or two, like they did the Trickster, I think that would be really cool to bring him in and have him do that. And what would be even cooler, in my opinion, I did hear a YouTuber talk about this, saying how cool it would be. What if they had Barry's father, who we all know is in jail wrongfully, what if they had him as the Jay Garrick character? Because if you know, I believe his name is John Wesley Shipp. He was the guy that played the Flash in the old Flash series back in the 90s that was terrible. How cool would that be? They brought Mark Hamill back as the Trickster. I mean, Mark Hamill's a god as far as I'm concerned. Star Wars, come on, give me a break. That was cool to bring him back and have him play the Trickster. I mean, I know they can't bring John Wesley Shipp in and have him play Barry Allen. Obviously, they can't do that. But what if they brought him in and had him play Jay Garrick? I think that would be really cool. Just change the name, whatever. That would be neat. Oh, yeah, and I didn't forget that we finally find out that they are going to, in fact, make Caitlin Snow Killer Frost, and we're getting Vibe. I mean, how cool is all of this? It's crazy, and I could ramble on all day long. I should do a show all about the Flash. There is a show out there. What is it? The Buzz something about the Flash, and It's terrible. But anyway, maybe I should do a show all about the Flash. But anyway, I have had a great time talking about this. I love John's World. It's so much fun. I hope you've enjoyed it too. I would love to get some feedback from you on the Flash. I'd love to have somebody to talk to about it. Send me an email to tanktalkfeedback@gmail.com. Let me know what you thought about the first season of the Flash and season 4 of Arrow. Season 4 of Arrow I thought was outstanding. I loved the Ra's al Ghul thing. I loved the whole season. Just wasn't crazy about the finale. Let me know what you think. tanktalkfeedback@gmail.com. We'll get some back and forth going. It'll be a lot of fun. So thank you all so much for listening to me ramble for an entire hour now. It's been a great time. I hope you've enjoyed it too. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to talking to you next week.